Welcome to the Empowered Working Mom Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Jocelyn Ella Young. Our mission here is to amplify the stories of all moms so that they can be seen, heard, and supported in their motherhood journey, regardless of whether they're balancing motherhood with an external career or choosing to dedicate themselves fully to motherhood. We believe here that everyone has a unique story, and we found that storytelling is an impactful way to connect and learn from one another. Because sharing and listening to each other's stories makes us feel connected, supported, and inspired. We're excited to bring you diverse stories from fellow working moms like you. So grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and listen in to today's story to feel acknowledged, encouraged, and most importantly, that you're not alone in your experience as a working mom. Hey there, mamas. Welcome back to another heartfelt episode here on the Empowered Working Mom Revolution. And I'm your host, Jocelyn, if you didn't know. And today, oh my goodness, I have a special conversation to share with y'all. So you can probably resonate with this, but you know those moments when you feel like you're totally drowning in survival mode between the dishes in the sink, juggling your schedule, your family schedule, your kids' schedule, and possibly work if you work outside of the home. Just trying to keep your head above water, right? Like daily life. Well, today's guest is about to give us a whole new perspective in the most amazing way. And I'm super excited to introduce you to Ella Wong, a remarkable mental health coach and a mom of four. Yes. You heard me right. 4 kids, and who actually knows a thing or two about the messiness and chaos of motherhood. After starting her career in the corporate world, Ella followed her heart into mental health coaching, where she now helps parents navigate their journeys with confidence and compassion. And as a Chinese American mom balancing 2 high schoolers and twin middle schoolers, yes, you heard that right, twin middle schoolers, she brings such rich perspective on breaking free from the survival mode mindset that so many of us mamas get stuck in. So buckle up. Get ready for some serious aha moments as we dive into really reframing our daily challenges as moms, letting go of expectations, and finding purpose in this messiness that can be beautiful and oh so hard journey of motherhood. So trust me, this conversation is going to be so soulful, soothing, inspiring, helping you feel seen, heard. You're gonna want to just, get cozy, grab your favorite choice of drink, and sit down and listen to how we can take on this new perspective that Ella shares with us. So without further ado, let's dive in, friends. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode here on the Empowered Working Mom Revolution podcast. And as you know, we have been sharing stories here called Mom Moments. And I'm super excited to have my friend Ella Wong here on the show and her sharing her story with us. So welcome to the show, Ella.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure. Pleasure is a good word, but it's such a thoughtful gesture, to be included in this podcast that you're creating.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad you said yes, because I'm excited to hear your story. But before we dive into that, would you like to just share a little bit about yourself with our audience, like who you are, whatever it is that you want to share with our audience?
Sure. A little bit about me. I'm an immigrant. I came to America when I was 6 months old, so hardly an immigrant, but definitely very much an immigrant, raised by immigrant parents. I am a mom of 4. I have 2 boys in high school. One's a junior, one's a freshman. They go to school on opposite sides of town, because being a mom of 4 is not complicated enough. In addition to that, I also have twin daughters who just started middle school this year. And they're twins. They're supposed to do everything together, but of course not. Even though they go to the same school, they play different sports. We are a very club sport, travel sport heavy family. I have a dog that we got during the pandemic, and his name is Yoda, love of my life. And yeah, I just celebrated my 20-year wedding anniversary too. So that's
Oh,
a
congrats.
pretty big milestone I wanted to share.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. And mom of four. So I'm really curious then, like, what are some significant moments that you've experienced in your life, whether that's personally or professionally, that have, led you to the place that you're at in your life right now, or even like who you are today as a mom of four kids?
Hmm. Significant moments. Let's see. How do I pinpoint where it all began? I think it's interesting, to note that, life is very different now. I think I want to share that I was married at age 23. So if you do the math and you know how long I've been married, you probably can guess my age.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was married early. I knew I very much wanted to be a mom. I know this whole podcast is about being a mom, but I knew at a very young age that, that was part of the way I wanted to make an impact in this world by having children, by raising them, by instilling values, like helping them discover what their values are. Yeah, that's a little bit about me for a significant moment in my earlier years that I could think of. I was raised by immigrant parents. I think that's also very interesting to talk about because life is very different when you're raised by immigrants because they are kind of living under the thought of like survival. Everything is always like constantly like about surviving. And so surviving was always like a theme or a motto in the house. And I carry it through the challenges that even come up being a mom today, like raising four kids. It's survival mode too. Other significant moments. I think it's important to share that I was a business major in school, worked in the corporate world, and decided it was great, but it's not how I wanted to make an impact in addition to being a mom in this world. So I got into the field of mental health. And so I am also a mental health coach. And, it took me a while, but I'm happy to say that, in the last few years, I've definitely found my place in life, something I think, a lot of people talk about this dream of finding a job that they want to do for the rest of their life. And I feel like I'm there.
How did you, I guess, come to this place of like, I'm hearing like this theme of like impact, right?
Mhm.
Like, how do you define impact for yourself? Because I think everyone has a different definition of impact. So I'm wondering, like, I'm hearing impact as a mom, but also in the work that you do.
Yeah, that's a great theme that you're pulling out. So it's sort of like, how in this world we talk about leaving a carbon footprint, like how, we use resources and such. And, life is short when you look at it in hindsight, but it's also long when you're kind of going through the tough moments. Making an impact to me is, how are you leaving a footprint in this world? What are you doing that made this world a better place? And so that's how I define impact. Like, what are you doing to kind of cause a ripple or to leave your footprint?
Yeah. How is that like I'm going to use the word how is that impacting just the way you're like parenting as a mom, and you're a working mom too?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Um, hmm. I have to think about that some more. What are you specifically trying to ask about that?
So I hear that like you knew from the beginning you wanted to be a mom, and that was one of the ways you wanted to have impact. And I'm wondering how that intention is playing out in the way that you raise your kids or how you parent your kids.
Because there's intentionality. I hear that in that, and also finding the work that you love to do. Do you find that you're parenting in a different way to foster that same, like helping your kids to find what they want to do in creating impact, or you know, like how does your own intention influence the way you're
Oh,
parenting?
yes. Okay, I understand the question. So very much so. Like I think another big word that comes to mind is purpose, right? Like what kind of
Mhm.
purpose do I want to have in my children's life? What kind of purpose do I want them to leave in this world? And how does it kind of influence the way I parent? I guess it influences it very much. It's also very different. I don't know if it's I want to say if it's very different, but similar. Like I said, I was kind of raised in survival mode by parents. But at the same time, I feel like I don't want to give that pressure of survival mode to my children, but more so like how are they going to live a life that's purposeful and meaningful? And so
Mm.
how does that help me as how does that guide me as a mom is to ask some questions, to figure out who they are. Like, I have four kids with four different personalities. Yes, they all share similar DNA of some sort, but definitely four very different personalities. And it's about sitting down, getting to really know them,
Mm.
really understand what do they want their purpose to be, to not project, the way I was raised or, my belief system on them, but more so to hear them out.
Okay, I love how you went there with
Mhm.
how you said not project the way that you were raised, like the survival mentality. And I hear that a lot in terms of like parent or, us as moms who grew up raised by immigrant parents. There is that survival mentality. And it's so hard. I don't know. For me, it's so hard to break away from that because it's so ingrained. Like, how do you like be conscious of that, like not projecting that onto your kids and actually like get out of that survival mentality as a mom? Because I know it's really, for me, it's really hard.
It is. It is really hard. I mean, every mom out there is probably really relating to the word survival mode,
Survival.
regardless if it's raised by immigrant parents or surviving to get food on the table or get our kids to the next like sporting event. So how do I not do that? It's actually very clear to me how I don't do that. So something I always see is we all carry a story, right? We
Hmm.
all have a way we were raised and how it got us to where we are today.
Hmm.
And that story, even if it's painful, traumatic, whatever it is, it's the reason we are who we are today. And that's just a story, right? Like this is, who we are. And when it comes to how I want to move forward, I hone in a lot on like what are my values and like how I want to be a mom, how I want to show up as a person. I focus a lot more on that. Like I share with my kids like this is how I was raised, this is how things are different. I don't shield them from realities of life. I share with them, but that doesn't necessarily mean I say that was the right way, this is how it's supposed to be done because I'm not a mind reader. I don't know anything for a fact. So I share, I communicate, I'm just very transparent about things. And then I want to see what they do with that information, right? I don't want to wait until one day when I'm gone and I don't really get to see it in person, but more so, I want to see them become the people that they're meant to become in my lifetime.
Mm. I love how you just put it all out on the table. Like you're like, look, kids, this is how I was raised. I'm not saying that this is what it is. This is the story that I come with, but you get to create your own story, right? I That's pretty cool. I like that. I'm wondering, you said something like the word survival, all moms resonate with that word.
That's true.
And there's something to that where I'm wondering for you, like survival in a sense of like is there, I don't know. For me, when I hear survival, I'm like, God damn, why are we always like in a survival mode? Right? Like,
Yeah.
is there another way to like experience motherhood besides like, because yeah, we all hear it like, oh my God, I'm just surviving. Right. But I don't know, like, I'm wondering like, is there another way to like see the day in and day out of being a mom, like in a different light, right? I don't know.
Of course.
I'm totally throwing this out. Like,
I know. I know. I think I know where you're going, and what is another way to see it versus survival? Survival is just, trying to if you think of metaphorically what it is, it's like you're constantly treading water because you feel like you're drowning. You're constantly treading to just stay on top. And I think that another way to look at it is to be mindful. To slow down sometimes, right? To just savor the moments. I'm not saying we can always be mindful, right? Because sometimes dinner has to get on the table. Sometimes your kid just has to eat a granola bar between practice and you can't make something wholesome, right? But mindful, just even being mindful of, hey, what's going on? Like, this is the moment. Like, this is a very short time in their chapter. It's a short time in my chapter too, as a mom, right? Like, we all know how it is when they're newborns. We're trying to get sleep, but it's also a very short time when you think back to it too. So enjoy the moments, as difficult as they are. And I think one thing that really helps me, I'll share with you, is when I do get like where I feel like I'm drowning, something I do tell myself, like when the dishes are piling up in the sink, is when I have the gloves on and the water steaming, is I tell myself, I get to do this. It's not that I have to do this. I get to do this. I get to have dishes to wash because I got to feed my kids like real food because my kids are here. That's why I have all these dishes to wash, So I get to is
like
another way.
it's a reframing of the story that you're telling yourself.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of the maybe difficulties that you've experienced as a mom? Whether that's like, you have 4 kids, which I'm like, I can't even, I'm like struggling with my own two. So like, I'm like, what are some of the challenges that you've experienced and how did you get through those?
So one thing I do want to say is, it's not a game, it's not a race, it's not about one kid or 40 kids, right? Like let me just say, it's hard for anyone. It's hard to be a mom. It's hard to be a caregiver of any sort, right? Challenges that come up, yeah, obviously, like I said, they all play competitive sports, with the season starting up again. I have a child that has games on Monday, Wednesdays. I have another child on Wednesday, Fridays. So I'm thinking, okay, so what do how do you make a decision with who to go to? And that's only 2 kids that we're trying to juggle right now. Honestly, nothing is ever going to be fair in life, right? Like no matter what, there's no such thing as fair. So, for the kids that have games on Monday, like, if the game starts at 4 and I'm still at work, there's nothing I could do about that, right? It is what it is. I'll have to find out about it later. So it's about having acceptance around what you can control versus what you can't control. Because let's be real, having 4 kids means you have to work and you have to earn an income to survive, to put the money on the table, to let them play these sports that they do play. So sometimes it's just about accepting the circumstances for what it is. So when difficulties do come up, you just think about what's in your control and what's not.
Yeah. Acceptance is so hard.
Oh yeah. And I mean, nothing is easy.
Because like you have to like let go of like your own expectations or hopes or even like control, right? And it's like, I don't know, as my kids, you have teens and now you have tweens and I have tweens, and I'm noticing like every single year as they're getting older is accepting that they're getting older, and then also accepting like letting go a little bit more and more so that they can, find their own way, right? As like, I can't be the same parent I was when they were 5 and 6. It's such a different, and that takes a lot of acceptance of like, oh, I'm showing up I have to show up a different way as a mom, with the kids. So I'm glad you brought up acceptance, because that is like a way to help you go through challenges, but it's also so damn hard. Right?
It is. And I do want to share, what you shared around control, expectations. Um, when you really think about that, it's like, who is the one setting those expectations?
Yeah.
Who's the one that wants control, right? And then it goes back to, what can I let go, right? But I do hear that word hope, and I feel like hope is something you never really have to give up on, because you can always have it. And one more thing, I lost my train of thought, like I always do when I go to the refrigerator. But evolution, evolving, right? Like as our children, as our tweens and teens evolve, we are also evolving too. Like there's no handbook out there that says this is how you raise a child. And if there was, there needs to be like billions and trillions of copies, because no one individual is alike.
Yeah. Okay. Hope versus expectation. Tell me how you think about those two concepts. Because sometimes I find that sometimes people, and me, myself included, the lines between hope and expectation get blurred, and a hope becomes an expectation. And we thought it was a hope, but then, like I'm curious to what you think about that, because, I hear moms sometimes say like, I hope my kid does this. And I was like, is that a hope or is that an expectation?
So as you were just saying how it becomes a blurred line, it goes back to, let me ask you, like, do you feel like when you say one versus the other, like hope versus expectation, would you say that one feels maybe lighter than the other?
I would say hope feels lighter and more expansive,
Mm-hmm.
and expectation feels more constrained.
I'm okay. So I know how I feel towards it, but I'm just curious, why does it feel constrained? What's constraining about expectations?
Like there's something that you want it to be a certain way, or there's a results that you're looking for. At least in my perspective. So I was curious, like, how do you see that? And then, like how, when we talk about like parenting, our like being a mom of our kids, like there are hopes and expectations, but then it's like, well, how do you discern, what are hopes and what are expectations? Because I know that sometimes I sometimes find myself like, when I step back, I'm like, oh, that was actually an expectation, not a hope. It's almost like you're like, you say a hope to make it feel light, but in actuality, subconsciously, it might be an expectation. I don't know. That's been my experience for myself, or even actually, in other conversations with other moms of like, I hope this, but then afterwards there's disappointment, and I'm like, if there's disappointment, was that expectation? I don't know. I'm curious to hear what you think.
I think you nailed it. You nailed it when you said one feels lighter, one feels heavier. Lighter being hope feels heavier. Hope feels lighter, expectation feels heavier, because expectations feel more restrained, confined, because it becomes like a set thing, which goes back to the whole control.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how we got started talking about hope and expectation. I think we were talking about acceptance, but
Yeah.
how do I not confuse those two, or how do I define them?
How do you not confuse those two?
Because they feel absolutely different, even the way I asked you. And hope feels lighter always, because it's not something set in stone. It's just like a wish, perhaps, and you just have to really remind yourself at any given moment, that as moms, we are not here to live our children's lives for them. We're only here to guide them for a short period of time. And, I'm not sure if you've ever seen those charts of like, maybe the first 18 years of our children's lives, they spend the most with us, right? And then after that, it significantly drops, right? But, hope is what's going to keep carrying you through versus, having more rigid expectations.
Yeah. I'm like wondering, how do we end up here? Oh, because we started talking about acceptance. Acceptance. I can kind of see how that relates to hope. I think because I heard you say hope and I was like, oh, I wonder, just the difference between that, because I know that as moms, we talk about, our hopes or expectations, or we don't. I don't know. That's something that, I think that we should be talking a lot more about, like, what does that mean for each of us? How does that feel? But I love how you said, like, it's a feeling. Definitely is a feeling. I'm wondering for you is like, have you had experiences where you had to have taken a leap of faith? I'm remembering what you said earlier when you were introducing yourself, where you were in corporate, but then now you're doing totally different work. Was that a leap of faith, or was that like or other situations that you want to share with us about where you had to take a leap of faith? And what was that like? And how did you do that? Like that's fascinating for me, and for others to hear too here.
No, I really appreciated having to reflect on that question because it made me really think back to where did it all begin? Okay, so was it a leap of faith? Was it something that was intentional? Okay, so just laying my cards out on the table again, I just want to share with you that I feel like in life, there's no such thing as coincidences. Like everything happens for a reason of some sort. So when I thought back to where did it all begin? High school. In high school, I was a peer counselor, and it was so rewarding to just be able to hold space for peers, just to know that everyone's always fighting a battle. We all have some conflicts of some sort, but to even know at that age, I really, really love this work. Like it's really impactful, right? But, if I'm going to go back to, I was raised by immigrants, being immigrant parents. I don't know if anyone else out there relates to this, but, the only occupations that were out there for us was become a doctor, become a lawyer, become an engineer, and all right, you can go into business.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the last one. Like, okay.
So I went to the okay. And, I'm sure there was some sort of calling that was already brewing inside of me around high school time. So, I ignored it. And I feel like no matter what you ignore in life, it's going to always find its way to come back out in one form or another. So is it a leap of faith or is it something that was brewing inside of me? I want to say it's a little bit of both because, I was fortunate enough to take time off to raise my children so that they wouldn't have to go to daycare. And in that time, I had some space between me and the whole corporate world. And, not to say that my education was a waste. Like I truly do have a passion for business. I really do understand it. Super great with finances. And I decided, being a mom changes you in so many ways. It makes you really look into yourself, how you want to make an impact in this world. And, sometimes I feel like being in my profession, I feel like, I could be a mom to like everyone else or like, help them hold that space. And so was it a leap of faith? I beg to differ a little just because I've always known like this is something I have a true passion for.
Yeah. It sounds like it's almost like not, I mean, I totally believe, agree with like it's been brewing underneath, but maybe it sounds like maybe it was a leap of faith to just trust that and return back to that. Like you've always had it.
It's definitely a leap of faith. It's definitely a leap of faith in the sense that you let go of what you know to go try something that's completely in the unknown, right?
Yeah.
But I think what really helps you do that is even experiencing motherhood, right? You don't know, you don't know anything. Like you can go plan all you want for how you think your labor is going to go, but everything goes out the door when the pain starts to feel like a 10, right? What's your level of pain? Well, so yeah, I think, becoming a mom kind of opens your eyes to just take those chances, don't regret, and like live life with no regrets.
Ooh, okay. What other things have you, like lessons that you've learned just after becoming a mom?
Too many, but of course I can't think of a single one because, like I said, I go to the refrigerator and I can't remember what I went there for.
The struggle is real, everyone.
It is. It's very real. Lessons from becoming a mom. I think a lot of it is you can't plan for anything. You can plan, you could do whatever you want, but it's still going to be what it's always meant to be.
Oh, I can hear a lot of moms listening to you like, oh, because I think like a lot of moms want like planning or want to have a plan. So I as you were saying that, I was like, oh, you can't plan, I think that goes back to what we talked about earlier, like acceptance of the experience.
And it goes back towards what we talked about, hoping versus expectations, right?
Say more.
Meaning, I have an analogy. I have a really good one, except it went away again. Oh my God, this is terrible. Like, not even just the refrigerator now, it's even on a podcast. All right.
I have those moments all the time. I think it's perimenopause phase. I always blame everything on perimenopause right now.
You want to talk about that? I feel like some girlfriends have shared with me that it's when you're in it, you're in it. But I don't think I have symptoms that are blaring at me quite yet. So I have an analogy kind of around hope and expectation when it comes to like motherhood even, and how we can see that in our children. So for example, we can hope that our children will make enough to survive or have happiness, right? But we can't expect them to, be a doctor, right? We can't expect certain things, but we can have hopes, right? So you see how one is so much lighter, right?
Yeah.
And I think, this goes back to your thing. What are some lessons I've learned in motherhood? It's just when you have expectations, you're almost setting yourself up for disappointment a little bit, right?
Right there. Yeah. Yeah. I feel that at the core of me being a child of immigrant parents.
That we were raised with expectations.
Yeah. Yeah. We were raised with expectations. And when I chose the business route, it's like, y'all, I wasn't good at math and science, okay? So I didn't fit the model minority stereotype. So
I worked hard to fit it, but I wasn't one of those naturally smart. Like I worked hard to get to where I needed to be.
yeah. Well, if you could leave our listeners with a lasting words of wisdom, what would you share with them?
I think two really come to mind right now. Have gratitude. Be grateful for the good. Be grateful for the bad. Remember to say the words "I get to" instead of "I have to." And the second one is live life with no regrets. Don't live scared. Just go for it. Go for it. Communicate it. Try it. What's the worst that could happen?
I love it. Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the book, everyone.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, well, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for being on here. Before we do our Mom Moments in a Minute game, how can people connect with you if they want to connect with you in any way?
I don't even know how people connect these days because I feel like I'm not very connected. What are some ways that people are connecting? I'm curious.
Whether it's social media or, if you have social media, if they want to connect with you, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, or otherwise, any other forms.
Yeah, I guess out of all the ones you mentioned, I do have an Instagram. I could be found at Do What You Love Today.
Oh yeah.
And LinkedIn. I don't even know how people find me on LinkedIn, but I guess you look for my name. So
Yeah.
Ella. My name, Ella Wong. Yes.
Yeah, I'll include those links in the show notes, everyone. So you ready for mom moments in a minute?
All right, let's do this.
Okay, there's 3 questions. The first question is, which choice would you pick for this? To have a moment of peace and quiet to yourself, which place would you choose? Bathroom, car, bedroom, or closet?
Why can't I pick Europe or Japan? I'm kidding.
Maybe I'll add that as a 5th option later.
Okay, do you want me to pick bathroom, closet,
bedroom, or car?
Bedroom. Bedroom's always been sanctuary, yeah.
And question 2, what is your favorite thing that you like to do with your kids?
I love to pester them with questions. How was your day? Good. What was good about it? Tell me more. Wait, who is that person? Wait, why? Do you like them? Do they like you?
That's what you get when you have a mom who's a mental health coach.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
Last question. To relax, what would you choose out of these 5 options? Spa, hike, a nap, read, or crafting?
Oh my gosh, a hike, 100%. There's bathing in nature, right? It's definitely very rejuvenating. I absolutely highly recommend it.
Yes, and that is why we're friends.
Did you pick that too?
Yes, I did. Well, thank you so much, Ella, for being on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Alrighty, moms, I hope you enjoyed and feel empowered and seen from today's conversation. Our mission here on the podcast is to amplify the stories of all moms so that you can be seen, heard, and supported in your motherhood journey, regardless of whether you're balancing motherhood with an external career or choosing to dedicate yourself fully to motherhood. And we would appreciate your support because your support matters. And here are 3 ways to support the mission of the podcast. First, you can leave a rating on Apple Podcasts so more moms can discover this podcast. You can select a star rating by scrolling down on the Empowered Working Mom Revolution show page in the Apple Podcasts app. 2, you can write a review on Apple Podcasts so more moms can find a place of solace, comfort, and belonging through this podcast. You can do this by scrolling down on the Empowered Working Mom Revolution show page in the Apple Podcasts app and tap Write a Review. And lastly, make a one-time donation to the podcast for as little as $7 or whatever amount feels best for you. You can click the link in the show notes to make a donation. We appreciate your support, and thanks again for listening in and joining me here on the podcast. I look forward to sharing with you another inspiring mom moment story next week. So until next Wednesday, moms, have a great day.